really do love TikTok, but it has created a monster, okay? You could literally say anything you want on that app, and as long as it sounds cool, it's gonna go viral. There is so much astrology, just nonsense on TikTok. Some of it is just the usual modern astrology nonsense, but some of the other stuff is just like literally saying anything that's gonna get views. So I'm gonna be reacting to some just ridiculous TikToks, making some super bold claims about what astrology can and cannot do. Is this real? Or is this something someone made up for views?
If you're in your 20s, pay attention to the house that Saturn and Jupiter are in your birth chart. And here's why. For example, the house that Jupiter is in your birth chart can show you the area of your life that could become luckier once you turn 24 years old.
No, there's about a dozen things in a birth chart that's going to determine whether or not Jupiter is lucky for you or not. First of all, were you born in the daytime or were you born at night? Because people who were born at night, Jupiter doesn't really give like that. Number two, what kind of dignities does Jupiter have? Is Jupiter eating in your chart? Is it up there in Cancer? Or is Jupiter fallen in Capricorn? People who were born in 1998, they have Jupiter conjunct the South Node, and the South Node decreases Jupiter's energy. So Jupiter's not going to be lucky for these people. If Jupiter in your chart is not describing luck, then that luck is not going to happen. You need to interpret Jupiter first based on its condition before you start trying to make predictions.
Now, paying attention to the house that Saturn is in your birth chart is really important, especially when you turn about approximately like 28 to 29. This is because of something called a Saturn return. Now, Saturn returns are a time in your life where the universe really pushes you to finally become an adult.
There is so much misinformation about Saturn returns online. We need to nip it in the bud right now. Saturn does not force you to become an adult. Saturn does not force you to do anything. Based on the way Saturn's showing up in your chart, it's describing a specific event or a series of events or themes or patterns in your life that will unfold. Now, based on Saturn's specific condition, this thing could be positive or it can be negative. Now, there is a common belief that you have to work towards your Saturn return, that you have to get mature in preparation of your Saturn return. And if you're mature at your Saturn return, then your Saturn return is going to be good. That is not how it works, okay? If you want to become mature, be mature. Obviously, like, I'm living in this world with you. I want you to be mature. But taking actions is not going to prevent or help whatever Saturn is symbolizing in your chart. There's this whole idea in modern astrology, mostly modern astrology, that there are things that you can do to prevent bad things from happening. If there is an event that is located in your chart, that event is going to play out no matter what you do. So you can become the most mature person in the world. If your Saturn return is signifying something unpleasant, that unpleasant thing is still going to happen.
Things might feel a little bit more serious. You might take on new responsibilities, but at the same time though, you tend to improve on areas of your life that you once had issues with.
No, seriously, no. I hope that happens. That's my biggest hope for people, is that things that they struggled with get better after their Saturn return. But that is not always the case. That is a blanket statement that gets said mostly in modern astrology, that your life is going to suck until your Saturn return and then things are going to get better. But that Saturn return could signal something becoming challenging in your life. It really, really depends on specifically what Saturn is doing in your chart. Okay, we have a lot of interpretive techniques that we can use to see if Saturn is symbolizing something positive or if it's symbolizing something negative.
Ladies, your Mars sign can tell you the kind of people you're attracted to just based on the element alone.
I'm not gonna finish this video because it's already off to a bad start. Mars is not sex. Mars is not smex. Mars is not attraction. Literally. I feel like this is so obvious. I feel stupid for saying this. Venus is attraction. Venus is smex. Venus is feeling good. Venus is pleasure. Venus is desire. Venus is turn-ons. Venus is all of that stuff. The fact that modern astrology insists on connecting Mars to smex is disturbing, because Mars is the planet of violence and competition and dominating and force and war and everything not pleasurable. Mars is pain, not pleasure. And this mindset is really exposing modern astrologers. like really exposing the weird ways that they conceptualize SMEX.
The reason people are afraid of their Saturn return is because sometimes there's some immaturity there and there's consequences for your actions. If you're a well-functioning adult, your Saturn return is going to be actually really good. Now, if you're an adult who's stuck in the past, you're still impulsive, you're not in...
Okay, I low-key hate this because I can tell that this creator put a lot of effort and time into this video. However, with this Saturn return nonsense, he is still conveying this idea that there is something that you have to do in order for your Saturn return to work out in a certain way. And that's not how it works. Saturn is not going to reward you if you do something good. The way that planets work is they symbolize events or patterns that are going to unfold in your life. And based on someone's Saturn placement, that event or pattern can either be positive or negative, and it does not matter what their maturity level is. For some people, Saturn represents the accumulation of wealth over time. For other people, it can describe the degradation of wealth over time. You know, if Saturn's in the 6th house, it's describing a disease that the person is going to contract. If Saturn is in the 7th house, it's describing the type of partner that they have. This person has a Saturnine partner, someone who keeps to themselves, etc. If Saturn is in the 4th house, it can describe a separation from family. You know, it really depends on what Saturn is doing in your chart, what event or theme is going to unfold. No amount of trying to be mature or trying to grow up or trying to get your life together or having a different mindset is going to change that event. You were born with Saturn in that specific placement because that thing is going to happen in your life. Astrology knows if you're going to be famous, and there's a list of placements that if you have these placements, it means you're going to be famous. Let's go through them. Sun conjunct midheaven, valid. The sun is visibility, and the midheaven is the most visible point in the chart, so that's a no-brainer. 5th house placements, that actually is surprisingly true, but not for the reasons modern astrologers say. So modern astrologers say that the 5th house is Leo, and that's why fame is there, because of Leo and drama and all that kind of stuff. In traditional astrology, the 5th house is called the house of good fortune, and it is often associated with people who receive recognitions or rewards. 10th house or Capricorn placements. Okay, half true. If we've got visibility in the 10th house, for example, the sun, the moon, especially if one of those planets is the sect light, then yes, that is going to represent someone who is being observed, being seen. Capricorn placements, no. That is what we call ABC logic. If you haven't heard of that before, modern astrology likes to do this thing where each house is associated with the zodiac sign. That is not true. This is just flat out misunderstanding of astrology techniques. Having specific placements in the 10th house can represent fame, we'll use that word lightly, but a Capricorn placement alone is no. Neptune in the 1st house, or Neptune aspecting the ascendant, no comment, really. I don't use Neptune, so I'm not going to comment on that. 5 degrees, 17 degrees, or 29 degrees. Leo degrees. Okay. Degree theory is absolute nonsense. It is not rooted anywhere in the astrological tradition. The number 5 is not associated with Leo. It's just a number. So throw the whole thing out, basically. North node conjunct the midheaven, that's valid. The North node increases everything. So with the midheaven representing the most visible part of a person's life, increase, yeah. Jupiter in Leo, no. By itself, no. We need to see Jupiter doing something. We need to see light. Light in a birth chart is what determines fame or recognition. Light, which is the sun and the moon. 8th house ruler in the 1st house. She's gonna need to explain that one to me because I'm not seeing the logic. The 8th house is the house of death. That's a good indication of someone who's going to pass before their years, as the house of debt as well. That's an indication of someone who gets strapped into debt. In astrology, the 8th house does not aspect the ascendant. Basically, the 8th house doesn't receive light. And remember, I talked about light. Light, visibility, being seen, being recognized, being perceived, really important. So a dark house is not going to give what you think it's going to give. That's it. That's the end of the video. Goodbye.